This is Envision Self-Healing Podcast, episode number 16. Hi, I'm Will Fuller.
And I'm Richard Miller.
And we are the co-creators of EnvisionSelfHealing.com and are dedicated in helping you improve your eyesight and quality of life
by taking healing into your own hands. This week's topic is the importance of understanding your vision condition. And in the question of the week, we're going to answer the question that asks, do I really need to do 4 hours of eye exercises per day in order to see improvement?
So Richard, how's the Brazilian world of self-healing been treating you this week?
Yeah, it's been obviously a very exciting week. We flew down to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And it was a little crazy before we left. Had a lot of things to get done.
We did have a lot of loose ends
to tie. Yes. And you'll see the fruits of that when we get back. So we'll start filling you in on that eventually here.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, it's true. And we're down here in Sao Paulo, Brazil, studying eye anatomy and vision conditions. And we're also doing a lot of eye exercises in amongst our study. So we're with a bunch of people who value eye exercises and actually knowing the anatomy. That's really why we're down here. Yeah.
It's the biggest thing I've noticed is just being in this community. Mm-hmm. It's so nice. There's around 40 people taking the course, and there's maybe 4 or 5 top instructors that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years.
Right.
And they really know their stuff, and it's just a pleasure to be in that sort of environment.
Yeah. And we make eye jokes and everybody laughs. So
it's not just us anymore.
No, it's not just us.
There's people as strange as we are, and now I'm proud of it.
Yep. Well, it means we're actually doing a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but we're definitely getting our dose of eye exercises because these people value it. So we'll do an hour of studying, let's say, the sclera, the white part of the eye, and then we'll get up and go outside and do eye exercises.
Yeah. And also, even when we're sitting there studying, every 30 minutes we put on a medium-sized piece of paper and stand up and start waving our hands to the side and work our peripheries. And
yeah,
it's nice that throughout the whole session, I mean, I've been obstructing my dominant eye for a big portion of this course.
Exactly, me too.
And I certainly feel less strain in my right eye.
No, for me, I'm putting a piece of black paper over my right dominant eye, and I have a scotoma or a blind spot in my left eye, and I'll place that blind spot on the speaker or something that's stimulating.
Oh, that's what I do.
That's what you do too. Yeah, we didn't discuss this.
I look up towards a light, and because my pseudomacular hole is just off to the right, so if I look just off to the left of a light, then I know that the light is directly in that blind spot.
Right, yeah. And then it has to be, I try to put something that I'm interested in the blind spot. So we'll start using it. And then I'll actually move it. We probably drifted into something very specific without telling people. But basically what we're doing is we're putting a piece of black paper over our dominant eye, blocking our central vision of our dominant eye. And since both Will and I have a blind area in our less dominant eye, our non-dominant eye, then we can take that blind spot and put it wherever we know it well enough. We can put it on something. Mm-hmm. So I put it on something interesting, like the speaker's face, and then I'll move it. I'll get it on the face, and then I'll move slightly off so I can see clearly what I was looking at through the blind spot. Shift back to the blind spot and go back and forth to try and okay, that's what I should be seeing through the blind spot. And then I move the blind spot onto that thing and see if I can see that thing again.
That's funny because I was just having a conversation. I'm sure we're going to dedicate a whole topic to this at some point with one of the lecturers here, Fernanda. And one thing that we learned yesterday was the importance of the brain in vision, and how, in fact, 90% of our vision comes from the brain first, where it then meets the images from the retina. So she was saying how using sort of visualization, so exactly what you just described, except for me, we suggested to do it with the retinitis pigmentosa, with the periphery. So I would be looking at you, and then it's sort of fuzzy around, almost like a circle around you. So what I would do, instead of leaving it fuzzy, I would look say to the left of you, acknowledge what's there,
right,
and then look back at you again and try and hold with my brain the detail that was there previously.
Yeah, I was listening in on the conversation too, so I got that same. I haven't quite done it yet, but the step that you're adding to what I'm talking about is maybe you look at you move what you want to look at into clarity. You see what it looks like. Then you close your eyes, visualize seeing that clear image inside the blind area, and then look with the blind area and see if it comes true, essentially.
Yeah.
And then the basis of this is what we've been learning, what you just said, that 90% is coming from the brain. 90% of our vision is sort of determined by the brain.
Yeah.
So if you can use visualization to get the brain on your side, then it can really work.
And what's nice about this is this isn't just hearsay. There's so many studies, especially in sports science. I know during my sports science degree, a large portion of the psychology section was visualization and how these athletes are training, and it fires off the same responses in the body. And we really don't appreciate the role that our brain plays in the initial part of our seeing. Before, we've talked about how important it is in seeing it all with all the processes and etc. But we've not really discussed, and we will go into more detail at some point, in how it's part of that initial trigger of seeing and what you're actually seeing in the first place.
Right.
So, but you found out some interesting news with your condition whilst we were here this week, some pretty optimistic stuff.
Yeah, there was so much this week, so it's hard to even focus on one thing. But yeah, so I heard about a case from Fernanda again, who this woman
she worked with, right?
She was
one of her clients.
One of her clients.
And she is a optometrist here in Sao Paulo, a very successful practice where she's combined the Mir-Schneider method of self-healing with optometry.
Right. She had a client who was trying to rebuild optic nerve, the cells around the optic disc where the optic nerve comes in, which is a similar problem to me. I have a pit. There's a pit basically in the back of the retina where the optic nerve comes in, and I have what's called cupping, or a little bit of damage to that pit around there. And this client had the very same condition, and the cells around that pit are what contribute to my blind spot being enlarged. Anyway, so the condition was exactly what I was experiencing myself. And this client, she worked with her with eye exercises for a while, and then realized what she really needed was a lot more blood flow to that area.
Well, she went to an ophthalmologist, and it was her second time there, and Fernanda was working with her. And she was doing okay, but there wasn't the improvements that they hoped.
Right.
And the ophthalmologist said, look, will you agree that she will start taking the drops if the third time she comes back there's no improvement, because her pressure was still up. And they really wanted to try and see the pressure drop, because it was either glaucoma or something very similar to glaucoma.
Right.
So
yeah, she was up against it because the ophthalmologist really wanted to do drops.
Yeah.
And Fernanda wanted to keep the client away from the drops, essentially.
Yeah.
And so they were really trying to do a program that would show benefits so she wouldn't have to do that. So, and they did it 2 times. They went to the ophthalmologist twice, and it didn't show the results they needed. So she shifted strategy at the end, and this client started swimming, doing lots of aerobics.
Yeah, they sent her to Bia, which is a lady here that has muscular dystrophy, and she should be in a wheelchair by now. Basically, she has one of the worst kinds that you can get. But she's leading this. She's been working on herself for 20 years now, and clients. And I mean, she's just amazing what she's achieved with herself and others.
Yeah, we can tell she's has muscular dystrophy by the way she walks, but the average person wouldn't know it.
And if you compare it to, I know the School for Self-Healing sells some DVDs on muscular dystrophy and what you can do to improve it, and Bia's in that. And you see how difficult it is for her to walk. And then now you couldn't compare the two.
Yeah. So anyway, so she sent this client to Bia, who then said, why don't you go out and do a lot of aerobics? So she became highly involved in swimming and all of these things. And by the third appointment with the ophthalmologist, she came back, and that there's a scan that you can do that actually sees this pit in the back of your eye. And they were actually the cells around the rim of the pit, which is my problem as well. We're getting healthier and growing, and you could actually see it in the scan.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So so it's exciting for me that if I could develop these cells, then my blind spot would shrink, and I would have more vision, basically.
Yeah. And of course, with the more vision comes more blood.
Right.
And it just promotes health and balance in the eyes.
So it inspired me to become this aerobics guy. We'll see how. So I was telling Will on the way back from this class, like, okay, get used to Skinny Richard, because I'm gonna do it for my eyes, if not my waist.
Yeah. I think they also did a lot of body work as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
On this lady.
You're right. Bea did a lot of body work on her as well.
Because Bea just has this amazing intellectual and also intuitive understanding of muscles, from where she's learned so much about it, and she's worked so close with muscular dystrophy, just like I guess we would with vision, understanding it ourselves, so that she knew the specific massage and the exercises, and it just shows that increased blood flow. She still did the eye exercises that Fernanda, she kept with the eye exercise program, but I think they said that she just fell in love with exercise, and her vision improved as a result. So that's exciting that you had that little.
So I might even look into a pool when I get back. So we'll see.
I think we should make the listeners start hassling you to make you go to the gym and start swimming and get your aerobics going.
Yeah,
some spin class, I'm sure.
Yep.
My biggest observation this week, other than all the great knowledge and some more information that I'm going to talk about later. But it was when we traveled here. How long do you think we traveled for? Maybe 23 hours?
Maybe 18. I don't even know. We left it with all the time change and everything. It was a long time.
So we got here and we caught a taxi. We got stuck. Of course, the day we arrived, there's a public transport strike.
Yeah, the subway was on strike. Yes.
So what should have been a 40-minute taxi ride was nearly 2 hours.
Right.
Stuck in the traffic on the way into Sao Paulo, and so we arrive and we went and grabbed something to eat and sort of tried to orientate ourselves. And I'd slept maybe 4 hours on the plane.
Right.
You'd maybe only got 1 or 2 hours sleep. And but I noticed how poor my periphery was. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing because I adjusted to it. I thought, I didn't realize how bad my periphery actually was. I was walking around and we were meeting lots of new people.
Right.
I mean, in this house alone where we're staying, there's like 10 Brazilians staying here, and everyone's saying hello, and we're at this big dinner table, and everything's talking different languages, and I don't have this periphery, and everyone's trying to shake my hand and kiss me on the cheek, and
kissing you on the cheek is better for you because it's up near. It's not so peripheral actually.
It is if I know they're kissing me on the cheek, because if I turn the wrong way, then it's a front smooch, so we have to be careful.
Oh, that's true.
It's all right for the younger women.
It's right. It's okay. There are
differences. So much of the older ones. But
I don't know.
It's nice.
It's nice. We deserve those kisses too.
So my periphery felt really shrunk, and I was like, wow, because obviously we get comfortable being in our social network, and I get used to my vision there. But I thought, being around all these new people, I really didn't realize how poor my periphery was. So as the days were going on and we were getting some more sleep, and I was eating some really healthy food here and drinking plenty of water, as the days went on, the next day my periphery had doubled from what it was the first day. And then the day after that, it doubled again.
Wow.
So I just saw this mass increase in periphery over the space of 2 or 3 days. It was amazing. So when I hadn't really done any eye exercises as well, what we had done in the class.
Right, which wasn't as much peripheral work as you're used to.
But it just goes to show what an influence the fatigue and, the traveling and being in a new environment and just, anxiety of what the course was going to be. Right. And, I don't speak any Portuguese, well, a little bit. And it was just,
not much.
Overwhelming. It just, that static that I talk about in my periphery just was everywhere.
Right.
So it was over the days I could really see that static reduce, and my periphery came back to the point where I could start seeing the sort of blurry shapes again in my periphery, whereas before it was just that tunnel vision. So it was tough but exciting at the same time to watch. I could actually watch the retinitis pigmentosa working in my eye and watch the anxiety and watch everything work as it goes on. Wow. So that was certainly fascinating for me, and that's something that I really wanted to share as soon as possible, because it was just...
Yeah, and that would be it's a good skill to have for anyone with a condition like ours, fairly serious condition, is to be able to watch when it's dropping off and when it's getting better.
Yeah, because you could imagine if that was my lifestyle all the time, then I'd be like, oh, my RP is really bad, and and then the negative spiral.
You probably would only, if you weren't practicing like you are, you'd probably just notice the negative and say, that's the way I see.
Yeah, I mean, now I probably would be upset, because I'd be like, oh, how embarrassing, my RP's a lot worse, and I can't function around all these people. Instead, it was, oh, okay, so for a couple of days, it was pretty bad. And obviously now it's not perfect, but still I noticed that there's an improvement to what it was before. So.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so I think it's a good time to move on to topic of the week.
And the topic this week is the importance of understanding your vision condition. And here we are studying night and day. Well, it is night and day, actually.
It really is night and day.
It really is night and day.
Because the class finishes, and luckily we're so blessed with that we're living in the house of the teacher. One of the main teachers that's here, as well as being with Dr. Mish Schneider and also Melissa Moody, who's practiced with me for many years now. And also Sonia, who's a specialist here. She's an occupational therapist,
right?
And to have all these brains in one room, and of course then Richard and I get involved, and it leads to midnight discussions on
every lunch break. It's continuous discussion about eye anatomy and how it influences.
Yeah, we have to be careful with this podcast, not just for it to be 4 hours long, talking about everything that we've learned over these few days, to shed light, which pretty much leads to the topic of the week, I guess, that the idea of learning all this anatomy is to shed light on your condition.
Yeah, and not everyone, of course, is geeky as we are in terms of like being excited about learning eye anatomy for its own sake, which I don't think we do either. We do it for the sake of learning how to treat our clients and learning how to treat ourselves. So in that context, for me, it's been very exciting to learn about, in particular, basically a phenomenon that's like static. It's like the snow on a TV set, or static in a line. That kind of that kind of noise.
And it's interesting because that's what I see in my periphery. It's the same static.
Yeah, you see it in your periphery. It's sort of like a little kind of sparkly, right? Like staticky kind of thing. Yeah. And I see it within the blind spot, within what's called a scotoma. Okay. In both eyes, actually.
Right.
I have this little area that has static in it. And for me, it's like, oh, that's an interesting phenomenon. I didn't really understand it thoroughly until this week.
Okay.
And I guess the piece of anatomy, it is anatomy, that I learned this week was that when the brain receives basically imperfect visual information from the retina, that it basically wants to refuse that information. Sort of like a little quality checker says, that's not good enough information.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts up this big stop, that puts its hand up. It says, no, I'm not taking that information. And that creates kind of a traffic jam, essentially, of information in that area. And that traffic jam becomes static. So even if this is true for you for years, that you're going to have this big stop sign up. The brain's going to put this big stop sign up, create this static. Then when you try and improve that area, it's still going to have the stop sign up. Yeah. You're still going to have static. So the thing I learned this week is the importance of palming to clear out that static. So if you just sort of try and use that area to exercise the area, it'd be great because your brain would start to engage with it, which you need to do.
Yeah.
But you also need to clear out the static in that area.
So when the palming does that Because it's black?
Yes, because, well, in my case, it's the optic nerve in particular.
So you're resting the optic nerve,
right?
So there isn't that build-up of traffic, just like when we tried to get in from Sao Paulo.
Exactly. Yes.
For 2 hours.
So I have a metro strike in my optic nerve, basically, and
little did we know we were actually heading to Richard's optic disc.
Yeah, we were traveling along. Yes, the optic nerve. Yeah. So that was it's exciting for me as a person who loves eye anatomy to learn that piece of information, but as a person with this vision condition, it motivates me to do palming, which is not my favorite activity, which a lot of people is true.
But it gives us basic understanding, and this goes back to the step 1 of our learn, create, integrate approach, which is to learn. And we know that a lot of people just think, oh, why learn anatomy? Oh, I don't understand anatomy. I'll just do the eye exercises. But it really does help bring practicality, understanding, and motivation in doing the eye exercises, and it makes such a difference.
Well, and if you're given a set of exercises basically and told these are good for you, you'll be motivated for a while to go, okay, Will and Richard say these are good for me, I'll do them. But at a certain point you go, this is a hassle. And then you need this is the taking healing in your own hands. You need to take healing in your own hands and be motivated to do it and know why you're doing it.
And I suppose it's different with a doctor because he just gives you a pill. All you have to do is just...
Yeah, it's easy, isn't it?
Need to know that you need to have it before or after breakfast.
Yeah.
And you don't have to think about it. You just take the pill. But with these exercises, you actually have to get yourself out of bed, off the couch. You know, you have to get home early from work. You know, you have to motivate yourselves to do these eye exercises in order for them to work. So just having that understanding, and I think also to be able to explain it to other people.
Right. Your family, for one thing. Like, why am I spending 15 minutes in this dark closet instead of talking to you?
Yeah.
That it could defuse that if you could say to them, this is why I'm doing it.
And if you say, oh, these guys told me it would be good for my eyes, so I'm doing it, then obviously the criticism is there. But if you could say, well, it's because there's a backup of static in my optic nerve, it's not being processed. So by palming, it means that you get to rest the optic nerve and it allows the static to clear out. Then I think people would go, oh,
yeah,
oh, okay.
I mean, it's really not that different than, the way we now understand cardiac conditions.
Yeah.
Like, I have to go to the gym to be on the treadmill in order to prevent heart attacks, things like that.
And you just, if you didn't know, well, even, I don't know, quitting smoking.
Yeah.
If you didn't know quitting smoking was bad for you, if they didn't talk about the lung cancer and the build-up of tar and everything, if you didn't know that, then you just keep smoking. So having that understanding, and of course that's taught to us from a very young age now, that it's common knowledge to us. People still smoke, but it's common knowledge. The same as people will know this and just not do the eye exercises. But for the vast majority of us, it's a big boost for motivation. And it also helps us even create and adapt the eye exercises, because there is no one way to do this.
Well, in my case too, I can now look at the static and say, oh, that's the phenomenon I'm trying to change. Now that I know that the static directly relates to palming, I can use that as a gauge as to how my palming is going.
So one thing that I learned this week, which really helped encourage me to keep improving my eyes, was to find out more about the structure of the rods and cones and the whole process of actually seeing in the retina. So when we were talking about these rods and cones, we were saying how in the central vision you start with, say, one cone cell which connects to one bipolar cell which connects to one ganglion, which is the process which sends the message to the brain. And that's obviously a crisper, clearer...
Right, 1 to 1 to 1 is clear, yeah.
But then as you go further out in the macula and out into the periphery, it increases more and more. So say in the outer part of the macula, you might have 2 cone cells to 1 bipolar to 1 ganglion. So you're getting messages from 2 different photoreceptor cells receiving the light, which is still being sent to the brain by that 1 ganglion cell. Now, when you get further out into the periphery, you can have up to even 10, even more rod cells that are connected to maybe 2 or 3 bipolar cells, which then connect to just 1 ganglion.
Right.
So what I found out this week, which was fascinating, is that say out of those 10 cells, 1 or 2 of them decide to stop functioning, then the bipolar and the ganglion cells decide to stop transmitting the signal from all 10 of those rods to the brain.
Right.
So if you can start activating, and this is what I've talked about before in my blogs about RP and how I'm improving it, but I've never been able to express it in this much detail before. If you can wake up those other 8 cells again, then you've gained that part of your peripheral vision.
Huge chunk, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's a crazy amount of peripheral vision, right? So it helps explain why when I do the peripheral vision exercise, covering my central vision, stimulating the periphery, then I'm working to wake up those dormant cells that the brain's already switched off, because the signal of, just like Richard said, if it's not a good signal or if it's not a good image, the brain just doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So it switches
our brain
it
is a bit perfectionistic that way,
But it's also that the cells itself are saying, oh, we're pretty damaged. You don't need to use us anymore.
Yeah, we'll retire.
Just start using, the rest of the periphery. And it continues. So, I mean, what huge motivation to really try and stimulate those cells. And it also explains why I'm seeing an increase in my periphery, which is fantastic because, I mean, it's unexplainable because nobody's outside self-healing. No one's doing this.
Well, most people believe you can't turn those cells around. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that certainly helps motivate me just by learning that piece of anatomy. And who knows what you might find out, being the listeners, when you start discovering the anatomy of your own condition and finding these fine details to really help do the exercises.
Yeah, it's motivation. It also helps you fine-tune your technique and your process of checking in on if it's working or not.
But even if it was just that knowledge, that helps me understand why the peripheral vision eye exercise is such an important one for me. I mean, obviously things like distance looking and sunning. I mean, the sunning itself stimulates the cells that we're talking about. So again, so as soon as you get that knowledge, and it's so easy to access the eye exercises that are written on our website, where it's just listed and we say exactly what each eye exercise does. So if you can find out that information, go to the eye exercise section and you can start finding out which eye exercises are best for that part of your anatomy.
Yeah, good plan.
So I think it's a good time to move on to question of the week.
And the question of the week this week is, do I need to really spend 4 hours a day practicing eye exercises in order to see improvement?
And the reason why this question comes up is obviously people like ourselves and Dr. Mish Schneider, who used to be blind and now he can see. And obviously he spent 10 hours a day working on his vision as a teenager in order to get where he is today. And also there's people like Melissa Moody, who you can read her story on the School for Self-Healing website. And also there's a new documentary out called Happy, which features Melissa in it. And it tells her story on how she was injured. And we've talked about her before. And obviously it's what the Melissa eye exercise was named after. Dr. Mish Schneider named that after Melissa. And, she obviously had to spend a lot of time working on herself. And just like Bea that we talked about with muscular dystrophy, she spent 4 to 6 hours a day working on herself, strengthening the muscles, and now she can walk, and she's never been in a wheelchair, and she's looking nice and strong and healthy. So there's a big group of us that really are dedicating 4 or 5 hours a day in self-healing to work on ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is basically yes and no, and it really kind of takes care of itself, because the people who do spend that amount of time tend to have conditions that are so serious that they almost don't have a choice, and their life has been so disrupted by their condition that it's sort of self-evident that they need to spend that amount of time. So.
And I think it's just a lot more motivating. You don't have a choice.
You kind of don't, yeah.
Because if you don't work on it, like myself, if I don't work on my periphery, I'm going to go blind.
Right. It's pretty strong motivation.
Yeah, it's on and off. It's either I do this or I don't.
Yeah.
And there's millions of people around the world that, even though they know that, they still don't do the eye exercises at all, which is a shame. But those that are motivated to do it will spend the time working on their vision.
Right. I think that so the people who don't have serious conditions, no, you do not have to spend 4 to 5 hours a day to improve your eyesight. For lesser conditions like, myopia, astigmatism, presbyopia, you don't need to spend that amount of time.
Obviously, it's more beneficial if you do.
Sure.
And you're going to see quicker results.
Right.
And your vision's going to feel a lot better, and everything will be improved through doing those 4 hours a day. But it's just, I guess, whether you have the time
to do it,
to do it or not.
Yeah.
But it's, we recommend no less than an hour a day, certainly, on your eyes, so that you can see improvements. Otherwise, it's just the same old, I tried eye exercises for a few months and they didn't work and it's just rubbish. And when you go back and you realize you just did, 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes a week even, and then said, these eye exercises don't work. You really need to give them a good shot in the beginning. But it's certainly something that the idea of when we tell these stories, they're meant to be motivational. Look at these people, they spent 11 hours a day working on their eyes. Like when I did my long palming, I palmed for 30 hours over one weekend. And people think, how am I ever going to spend, I'm not going to spend 30 hours palming. There's no way I'm going to improve my vision. But so we intend it to be motivational, and some people just get intimidated and just avoid the eye exercises altogether. But even if you do have a condition, say like RP, then, you want to do as much as you can and just try and stick to that minimum. And even if you're just maintaining at a level, then that's still good.
Yeah. And you can make little pushes and then maintain, and you can vary the amount you do too, depending on your life.
And this is why we put such an emphasis on integrating the eye exercises into our lives, which is step 3 of our 3-step approach of self-healing. And this is because those of you that don't have that time to work on yourselves, then before you know it, you can start building up these eye exercises throughout the day. And you might have done 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours of eye exercises without having to really break your routine or really consume a lot of your day spending doing the eye exercises that you need to see those improvements. And when we talk about these great stories of these people that have improved their vision or indeed their body condition, instead of being intimidated, just think of it as a nice motivational aspect that there are these people out there that are being told that their condition can't be improved, there's no hope for them. But instead, they're working hard on themselves and they're seeing improvements and they're living a fantastic and normal life that they can do and take it one step further and also help others to do the same. So I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. And if you enjoyed what you heard, you can check over to our website at envisionselfhealing.com and find out a lot more video blogs that both Richard and I do on our own self-healing and techniques that we recommend over there. You could also find your free vision improvement program over in the conditions section. Just click on your condition and you will find a free program there for you, in which eye exercises that you can work on to improve your eyesight. You can also head over to our Facebook fan page where there's plenty of pictures there on how we're getting on with our vision, and also a bit of an update on our Brazil trip and some of the things that we're getting up to over here. You can also follow us on Twitter, and you can find out our Twitter addresses by heading over to our website. Also, if some of the information resonated with you today and how understanding more anatomy could improve your eyesight, go ahead and download our free ebook, A Modern Day Guide for Improving Eyesight, from our website, which explains a little bit more in a very basic, simple term how the anatomy can improve your eyes and to help give you a little bit more understanding to help you improve your vision. So, good luck with your eye exercises this week and happy healing.